Hello, Steve Kaufman here. I'm going to be away for a few days, so I thought I would talk a bit today. And I must admit that I'm a little bit lazy when it comes to actually writing out my thoughts on my blog. So it's very convenient for me to just record them here. It goes out as a podcast and as a video cam, and I look forward to feedback. We talked a bit about Krashen. I talked a bit about what I saw were the limits of Krashen. Then we've had a tremendous exchange at my blog, The Linguist on Language. Some very thoughtful posts by people like Igor the Macedonian, as I like to call him, and he likes to be called. One day I'll have to visit that country. And from John Fotheringham, who is in Taiwan and who is a very enlightened language teacher. And I think we have to stop and pause a bit that we're living in this internet age where I can sit down here and talk to people via the computer, and I can refer to comments that people have made on my space, the conversations that I'm having across time zones into Taiwan and Macedonia. That's the world we're living in today. And that's important when we think about language learning. I'm going to refer a little later to a reference that Igor provided, which I thought was very interesting. But first, one of the reasons why I'm jumping right back in so soon after my last video is that it was brought to my attention that there was an exchange at this website, and I'll post the URL at my blog, called How to Learn Any Language Anytime or something like that. Most of the people who go there are language learning keeners. And they have run a thread for 23 pages talking about whether one needs to have formal instruction or to do formal structured grammar learning, or whether one can learn simply by listening and reading. And of course, some people think that listening and reading is the way to go. They support the Krashen view, and they point to examples such as, and the names were mentioned, Moses McCormick is one. There's Cato Lom, who's also often mentioned, myself. And of course, thereupon a number of people jumped in to criticize. They criticized Moses McCormick. They criticized me. Someone said that if I had put more effort into grammar, my Russian wouldn't have so many mistakes. And so I just want to address that initially. First of all, I think Moses McCormick is a great guy. I've seen his videos. If you Google for Moses McCormick language or something, or look in YouTube, you'll find his videos. He has the right attitude. Enjoy the language. Just relax. Communicate. Enjoy it for whatever purpose you may have. Stu J. Ray is another guy. Just enjoy it. That there are going to be some languages that he speaks better than others, some languages that I speak better than others. It doesn't matter. My purpose in learning Russian is to access radio, to access books. I don't have anyone to speak to here. I'm not required to be accurate. It doesn't matter to me. But in the course of 3 years of listening and reading, I have acquired a vocabulary of 50,000 words. That's what Link tells me. Maybe I don't know all 50,000, but I know a lot of words. I can read a lot. I can listen a lot. And so I have achieved that. That's my goal. If I were to live and work in Russia, I would work on my accuracy, but I wouldn't go to a school, and I wouldn't study all these rules of grammar that simply don't make sense to me. I'm aware, and I occasionally review a grammar book to remind myself that there are these rules. I pick up the odd thing, but most of it just goes by me. And I think deliberately studying grammar, to me, is a thankless job. I won't do it. So, those that like doing it, fine. But to suggest that my Russian is poor because I don't speak Russian, I don't believe that. I believe that people who have studied grammar deliberately for 2 or 3 years won't be any more accurate than I am and will have far fewer words. I can't prove it, but that's what I think. So that's with regard to this discussion. The other thing, I think it's very important not to be too doctrinaire or dogmatic. I do what I like. I observe what other people like. I have seen so many people get frustrated by traditional grammar-based language instruction. In fact, I think a lot of the activities that take place in language school are useless. I think they are there to amuse the teacher and to some extent the student. So they're amusing. It's something that they like. They like doing it. Fine, do it. I would far rather have the time for myself to study on my own. And that brings me to a reference in one of the comments that Igor the Macedonian made. And he referred to a paper, and I will also put the URL on my blog, and it's something that someone in Britain originally wrote back in 1991. The person's name was something about, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he said that in order to, languages cannot be taught, they can only be learned. I've been saying this, I didn't know that someone had said this. 1991, 18 years ago. And he said that the only purpose of a language teacher is, first of all, to guide the language learner, to show the language learner how they can learn on their own, therefore guide, number one, and two, to answer questions and explain things about the language when asked. Those two things. Now, I think people ask too many questions, but I do believe that occasionally being pointed out some things about the language, and quite frankly, occasionally correcting some mistakes. As I say, not in the hope that the person will improve right away, but just to help them become more attentive. I think those things have a place. That's what we do at Link. We suggest that people use our forum where we have native speakers coming on and helping them. Get a tutor once a week, talk to the tutor, write, get it corrected once a week, but mostly just listen and read. Now, what's interesting is that this person wrote this report, which you can read at my blog, 18 years ago. Now just think how many things have changed. The internet, the availability of content, the opportunity to interact with people, to find tutors, to find graded language material, to download it onto your iPod. I mean, things have just exploded over the last 18 years. So what was true in 1991 is even more true today. But by the same token, I don't think we want to be, I'm going to have to take some notes here, I forget what I wanted to say. I did want to say that most people learn to be fluent without going to school. Historically, that's been the case. And most people who are subjected to grammar-based instruction, i.e. today we'll learn this, tomorrow we learn something else, then I test you on it, give you exercises so you can practice it, and then you're going to get it right and I'll mark you on it. That kind of instruction mostly discourages people, and it isn't very effective. Yes, we make mistakes. We will inevitably make mistakes. The importance of accuracy depends on your needs. I've said that. Now to Igor, who says, forget any kind of attempt to learn words or writing or speaking or output is all useless. Just listen and read. If I were to read 5 books of Tolstoy, I'd be fluent. He says, well, you know what? I don't like reading if I don't understand the words. And therefore, I read on Link, where I have access to an online dictionary. So I get an instant lookup. But what's more, that word goes into my database, because otherwise I'll forget that I ever even looked it up. And so therefore, there's a whole range of things, from flashcards to highlighting words that you have already looked up, that make it more efficient to do that reading on the internet, which is what I have done at Link for 3 years. And now I can read more and more things without being at the computer. But it took me that long to get there. Also, Igor is very strong on graded readers. Fine. I agree that it's important to try to grade material. And again, we're going to do a better job of that at Link very shortly. All material will be graded against frequency lists. But, and of course, the big thing is vocabulary, not structure, vocabulary. But the bigger thing, rather to me more important than grading the readers, is interest. And I prefer to read things of interest. And so I can read simplified history perhaps of Russia, maybe 1 or 2, not much. But when it comes to literature, I want to read the original. I am not interested in reading simplified Tolstoy, and I'm not interested in reading silly stories. That's just me. Other people, different. So I think it's important not to be dogmatic. And I'm also on this listserv with teachers, and they're talking about whether their teachers are kinesthetic learners or this kind of learner or that kind of learner, and what activities they should plan for them. And I mean, they like doing that. There's lots of people like going to school. To me, it's all a waste of time. The teacher is a guide, someone who helps you, encourages you, who stimulates you, who helps you find stuff. But you have to learn on your own, which is what the fellow said 18 years ago. That's what I believe to be the case. In the meantime, make mistakes, enjoy yourself like Moses McCormick, and let's not get too serious or pedantic or dogmatic about all of this. And I'm going to be just within my 10 minutes. Bye for now.